Welcome to the show. In this one, I have a conversation with Stranger Things staff writer and story editor, Kate Trefry. When she was a kid growing up in Anchorage, Alaska, Kate says she was an obsessive reader and writer. That those two things have always been part of who she is. The need to express herself and to leave a mark was imprinted on her at a young age, when her parents took her to Italy and she saw all the timeless pieces of art. From that point on, she was interested in leaving a legacy. Although the specifics of that idea has changed throughout her life, especially after the birth of her daughter, it remains just as important now as it did then. Okay, time to give the Crude Company men a shout out. These are the people who have subscribed to the Crude Patreon for $50 or more. Trina Duber, Seward Brewing Company, Crystal Liska, Derek Adolph, Blue and Gold Board Shop, Sharon Liska, Carly Mortensen, and Alaska Surf Adventure. Thank you to all the Crude Patreon subscribers. This podcast wouldn't be possible without you. If you subscribe to the Crude Magazine Patreon, thank you. Your money helps keep this podcast alive. So if you enjoy these conversations, you can subscribe at www.patreon.com/Crude Magazine. That's patreon.com/Crude Magazine, and pick the subscription tier that works for you. Okay, back to Kate Trefry. It's no surprise that the road to Hollywood success is turbulent. It's something many pursue, but very few achieve. For those few, it usually comes in the form of the elusive big break. Such was the case with Kate. After years of pursuing a career in show business and working odd jobs to make ends meet, she landed an interview with the Duffer Brothers, the creators of Stranger Things. This opportunity didn't just come out of nowhere, though. It was the culmination of years of hard work and false starts and bad meetings and rejection letters. But that's what she realized separates the successful and the unsuccessful in Hollywood. The ability to endure the hardships and not give up. So here she is, Kate Trefry. This red light right here, it means we're recording.
Okay, fired up.
Crude conversations. Listen more, then you talk.
Go to work!
We are rocking and rolling.
Exciting.
So welcome to the show, Kate.
Thank you so much.
You're in LA, right?
I am. I'm in actual Hollywood.
How is it? Just sunny and sick every day?
I don't know. I mean, it's on fire right now, so it's kind of a bummer. But it's okay. I mean, it's got its ups and downs.
For sure, just like anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I go back to Alaska probably like twice a year, and I'm always excited to come visit.
What do you do when you come back to Alaska?
Well, my husband, who's also from Alaska, actually, sidebar, I don't know if this is going to go in the show, but I think you know him. Do you know Ben Bollet?
I do. So one of my really good friends is Sebastian Garber.
Uh-huh.
And you guys all went to school together. And I just have such a crap memory when it comes to school because I was in and out of school just doing the snowboarding thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I do remember Ben's name. So yes, I do. I probably just need to see a picture and I'm like, yeah, I know him.
Yeah, he's like super hot. He has green eyes. He's like a really good father. He has like a beautiful smile.
I knew it. Yeah, no, I know exactly who he is.
I know, right? His skin is like golden and he's like so funny. Anyway, I didn't actually go to high school with him. I was at Diamond and he was at Service. And then we like randomly met at a party in New York later. But yes. Wait, why are we talking about this? Oh, what do I do when I come back to Alaska?
Yeah.
His parents have a house out at Big Lake. So my family has all moved out of Alaska, but I go back there usually once in the summer and once in the winter and hang out on Big Lake, and it's amazing.
And I guess to take it a little further back,
Mm-hmm.
you went to Athenaeum, right?
Yeah.
Which was
Yep.
a Socratic method seminar school.
Yeah, that's weird. How do you know that?
I know things.
Oh, okay. It's creepy.
No, my good friend Clayton Linden and his sister Color Linden also went there.
Oh, I remember Color. Yeah. Fuck, I haven't thought about her in forever.
So they're the ones who kind of turned me on to this. They were like, you need to hit up Kate.
Awesome. Gosh, that's crazy. Yeah, I went there for like 6th and 7th grade or something, and then I got expelled, actually.
No way, for what?
Smoking the weed with the principal's daughter. And guess who didn't get in trouble? So
Was it the principal's daughter?
it sure was, Cody. It sure was. Yeah, so I got kicked out of there, and then I went to Golden View for 8th grade, and then I went to Diamond until I was a senior, and then I went to APU. So it never really took. I was really all over the place.
Okay, so to drop into these interview questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I was doing my research and writing questions for you, and I realized that you don't really have social media.
Nope. Off the grid.
Is there a reason for that, or a philosophy behind it, or is it just a byproduct of having a busy schedule?
It's all of these things. I don't know. Like, I feel like technology is like evolving way faster than we are, and I don't think that we have yet started. This is going to make me sound like a fucking cuckoo bird, but I don't think that we have yet started to understand the ramifications of all of this online socializing. And I'm just kind of sitting it out, waiting to see what happens. And I'm also like doing that with my kid, where it's just like, I don't know, maybe I'm old fashioned. I'm like a curmudgeon, but like it gives me the creeps a little bit. And I don't think that anyone, young should like have their face out there without like having any autonomy or control over that. So, I'm like off. Yeah, I'm like off the grid. I'm also very busy, and I also was just like naturally very bad at all of it. Like I was like around for MySpace, and like MySpace made sense to me. And then as soon as it started to become like Instagram and like Twitter, I was like, I don't understand. I'm just like showing pictures. Like I don't even take pictures. Like I'm not a photographer. And then with Twitter, I was like, why? This word limit does not suit me, and I have nothing to say, and who am I even talking to? So that's who I am, and that's why I'm not around. Also, once I got on to Stranger Things, there's a lot of like, it's great, and I love the fans, and I love the like popularity of the show, but it's also like nice to have like a filter of, I'm not any more well-known than I want to be. Like, people can't find me and hit me up. I mean, like, it's sweet. It's usually just people sending, like, kids sending, like, audition tapes and stuff. But it's just, like, I'm not the person to help you with that. And, like, I don't know what to tell you. But this audition is adorable.
So it's easier just to kind of tap out.
Yeah, kind of tap out. I like to be focused on real things. Like I'm not a good hype man, like my manager would tell you. Like I just like to do work, and I don't like to promote, and I don't like to advertise. I don't like to brag, which is probably seems like bullshit because I'm basically doing this to just brag. But yeah, it's that combination, I guess.
It seems very old school. I mean, I'm actually a big fan of what you do or what you're doing with social media by not having it, because I long for the day that I don't have to have social media.
Yeah.
But it is very old school in that you only do the interviews you want to.
Yes.
You only are out there as much as you want to be.
Yeah, I think you have more control of your exposure, and I also just find like everyone has like their own perspective about it, but for me it's just a huge time waster. And like I don't have time. Like I try to like not be on any of it as much as possible, because it's just like I used to have it. I used to like be on Facebook or whatever. And I still check it every once in a while, but every time I do, you know what it is. It's the same thing. You're like, oh, I got to check this thing, like your messages from you. And then all of a sudden I'm like Googling, Tagger Tasker, like, what's that guy up to? Like, I'm deep in it, like 2 hours later, and I'm like, I got to get out of here. What the hell just happened?
Since you've left the social media scene, what have you realized that you do more of now?
I look at people more. I pay attention more. Like, I make a big, like, point of not, like, taking out my phone when I'm, like, standing in line for stuff. I think that there's, like, a big movement to, like, constant stimulation that I am, like, always battling myself, and I want to, like, set a good example for my kid and life and going forward, and saying, like, it's okay to, like, not be scrolling through something. Like, you don't have to be multitasking. You can just, like, be somewhere. You can look at people, and you can, like, look around you and see the world around you. So, like, I guess being bored, like, getting comfortable again with being, like, a little bit bored, I think is important. I think it's kind of important. It sounds like a weird thing, but there's that. I read books. Like, I actually read books now at night instead of just, like, staring at the horrible news until I pass out into nightmares. Mm-hmm. And then also it's just like, my kid turned 1 like 5 days ago. Like, it's a luxury to sit down and, like, zone out and, like, read, Deadline or whatever for 10 minutes.
I think, like you were saying, it helps you be more present.
Yes.
You're more present in conversations. I've used this example a few times during the podcast, but doing these weekly conversations where I'm preparing for them and I'm really trying to come up with thoughtful questions and researching the guests, they have helped me in my real life. And I'm the type of person now, especially when I'm in public, I really try not to pull out my phone as often as I used to. Mm-hmm. And so kind of a happy byproduct of the podcast and kind of trying to stay away from my phone is, looking people in the eyes and walking through the grocery store and actually looking at people mm-hmm. and smiling. And it's old school. It
is old school. And I really like it. I don't know. I'm as guilty as anyone of doing that thing. Like, I get the itch, like, whatever dopamine rewiring, like, dystopian bullshit that has happened to us. Like, I get the itch like anyone else when I have, like, 10 seconds at a stoplight and I'm driving to be like, ooh, like, I wonder if NPR has updated their homepage in the last 5 seconds, And it's like, I don't care. Like, it's going to be like, another article about the impeachment process, which, nothing is happening right now. Like, it's fine. But, it's like it's something I have to practice resisting all the time.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it's because of your absence on social media, but there's surprisingly very little about your personal life online.
Yeah, which is important to me.
You already mentioned you were born in Anchorage, Alaska.
Yes.
What were you like as a kid?
As a kid? Like, what are we talking? We talking like 8? We talking like 15?
I guess what I'm trying to establish here is, like, how did you get from where you were as a kid in Anchorage, Alaska, which Alaska is very much like annexed from the rest of the world, mm-hmm. to where you are now, which is working on arguably one of the biggest shows in the world.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I was a, like, introverted, very odd, like, tomboy child who, like, spent a lot of time in the woods. I went to Polaris when I was a kid. I don't know if Polaris is still around, but
it is.
Yeah. So I took, like, a lot of classes about rainbows, like whole intensives, like, about rainbows. I took, like, 4. I wasn't, like, cool. I was very androgynous. I feel like if I was a kid today, people would be like, oh, like, is this child transitioning? Like, I was fully I grew up with brothers, and I like really didn't see the value in being a girl, and just like kind of was that person. And so I was like a thoughtful kid, but I think from a pretty young age, I was sort of obsessed with the idea of leaving a mark. My parents took me abroad when I was young to like Italy, and I saw all of these timeless like works of art. And I remember having this kind of like epiphany when I was like 10, maybe, being in some chapel, being like, oh, I really need, this is so weird for a 10-year-old, but I was like, the idea of like legacy is kind of important to me. Like I want to be like, make some impact and be known in some way. And I was like an obsessive reader, and writer, like from a really early age. So that was always kind of like part of my DNA. And then, I left, I was a like very difficult, I mean, spectrum teenager. I was a teenager. I was like any other teenager. I was a monster.
Sure.
And then I went to, I left Alaska to go to school in Colorado for like 2 years. I went to Colorado College, which is a very cool, good school in a really terrible place. And I got really bored of being there and I ended up in New York. And once I got to New York, I felt like I like had found my speed. Like the speed that New York moves at is like, I think like the appropriate speed for humans in life. And which is not the same speed in LA. So there's tension there. But, from there, I was an English major, and I knew I wanted to write. I always thought I was going to write novels, fiction. And then I started taking a couple of like film and screenwriting classes in New York. And then like I don't know, my future husband was really into film, and he was doing it. And I was in a comedy group, and we were like making short films, which technically you could probably find on the internet, but I hope that you don't, because they are very bad. And I was just kind of doing that. And, Ben Belay and Joe Hardesty all moved out to Los Angeles together to try to like make it in showbiz. Mm-hmm. And that's like the short and dirty, I guess, version of how I ended up here. Trying to do the screenwriting life out in LA.
So you're in LA.
I'm in LA. How
did you get the opportunity to write on Stranger Things?
Well, I toiled in anonymity for like 8 years or something, or 6. I don't know. I'm bad at math, and I have no sense of time. Like LA has no seasons. So it's like, I feel like I got here like this morning, and it's just like the longest day. But I got out here, I wrote a script. My first script got like attention. It was on this thing called The Blacklist, which is like a big deal out here, but no one anywhere else cares about it, which is correct. And I was like, my first script was like really personal about obsessive compulsive disorder, and it was called Pure O. And it was like, people were really excited about it. I got a manager, I got agents. I was like, oh my God, like I did it. I like first script. I've been here for like a year or whatever, a couple of years, and I just nailed it. Mm-hmm. Like, this is amazing. And then I didn't get work for like 5 years because it doesn't actually mean anything.
That's pretty typical, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. You have to like be willing to, I think more than anything, what separates like the successful from the unsuccessful in LA is just an ability to just take it, just take it for a really long time, mm-hmm. and just not give up. So I kept writing. I worked like every job there is. Like I did landscaping. I made snow cones for rich kids' birthday parties. I worked at a bakery. I like worked at a coffee shop. Like I bartended. Like I don't even, like I did art department. I built props. Like I don't even, I did all kinds of shit. I was an assistant, a development assistant in a production company. And all the time I like kept writing, and I was actually like, I had a series of really bad meetings, like epically bad meetings. Actually, this movie that just came out, Hustlers, I don't know, did you see that?
The one with Jennifer Lopez?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it.
Well, I pitched on that movie like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago or something, with Adam McKay, who I'd never met before. And I like walked in this room with like an Adam McKay, who's like, I don't know if you know this, but he's like 11 feet tall. And he was wearing like all corduroy. He had like a corduroy suit on, and he was like this giant corduroy like monolith in this like room of like other angry people. And I was supposed to pitch on Hustlers, which the plot is, you know, based on this true story of these strippers that drug these guys and steal all of their money. But the meeting was set on this Monday, and the Monday it was set on, I went in there, and it was the day after the Pulse nightclub shooting. And it was terrible. It was like everyone was like very upset, myself included. And we talked about that and like gun violence for like 10 minutes. And then they were like, okay, go ahead. Pitch your show or pitch your movie or whatever. And I just bombed like no one has ever bombed like this in the history of fucking show business. Like, it was so bad. It was so bad that my manager called me afterwards, and he was like, do you want me to tell you the truth? And I was like, no, I do not. And yeah, it was like, it was sucked, you know, like I was like, I'm just not cut out for this. I don't think I can do this anymore. So I actually went back to, like my husband and I, we like hung out in New York for a little while. I did bartending more. And then we were actually in Alaska. I was at Big Lake, and I was like having a serious discussion with him, being like, it's not working. Like, we are 28 or 29 or something and haven't made any money like doing this. I think grand total writing screenplays, I made like 30 grand on this like Selena Gomez movie that never happened. And then, and I was like, I don't know, maybe we got to do something else. My backup plan, which is a terrible backup plan, was maybe we'll open like a Bear's Tooth, like movie pub, which is like super expensive and impossible and hard. But I was like, maybe we'll just do that. And then the next day, my manager called, and he was like, oh, have you seen the trailer for Stranger Things? And I was like, yeah, it looks awesome. And all the time when I'm saying this, that I was like, it's time to give up, I was writing a new script, like at the same time, because it's like a compulsive thing. So I was like, yeah, I saw it. It's like this thing that I'm working on, actually. And he was like, well, the show creators want to like interview you over Skype. And I was like, all right, fine. So I went like skinny dipping in the lake, and then I like had a beer, and then I was like, oh, it's time for my interview. So I like went on Skype and Skyped with the Duffer Brothers. And I was like really mean. I was like really grouchy. And like, I knew I wasn't going to get it. And so I was just like, you know, I was like, it's cool that you guys, you know, it seems like what you're doing is cool. And they're like, oh, like, how's your writing process? Like, what's your process? And I was like, there is no process. Writing is a hellscape, and show business is a fucking joke. And like, it was like really like dark. And they were like, yes, we want to hire you. We want this. So they hired me, and I flew out back to LA like the next day, and I slept on Joe Hardesty's couch for like the first 2 months I was back, because we had given up. We had like moved out of LA. We had no house. I had no place to live. But I like all of a sudden was working on a show that hadn't come out yet. And then I think like 2 months into the job, the show came out, and it was like, all of a sudden I was like, oh fuck, there's been a mistake. There's been like a mix up or something, because this show is like gigantic, and I've never written for TV before. I've never been in a writer's room. I've never written a pilot. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But it was awesome.
So it was pretty literally an overnight success for you.
Okay. Yes, but also like that's if you don't count the like 7 years that came before that. Mm-hmm. And they ended up finding me because of that first script that I wrote. That was the script that they read that they got from some guy that I went on a meeting with like 5 years earlier. And so it's like, yes, it was an overnight success, but with like, it's nothing, 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 and then all at once. And I think that happens a lot out here. It's not a typical path, You spend a lot of time like going home to your parents for Christmas and being like embarrassed and like struggling and like defensive. And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, fuck you. Check me out. I did it.
No, I think that's great. I actually, oddly enough, was talking to a friend the other day about this exact thing where you struggle and you kind of trudge through the process, and it isn't till kind of talent meets opportunity that you finally get to that end goal point.
Yeah, exactly. You just have to like keep knocking on the door forever. And then the door finally opens and everyone's like, oh my God, there you are. Like as if it was meant to be. Like, it's like, it seems so lucky, but when you think about it, it's like, yeah, I've been, I spent a lot of time grinding, and like not getting anywhere. So it seemed.
So Stranger Things obviously has an 80s horror sci-fi vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch a lot of horror or sci-fi growing up?
I did. I really loved.
And sorry if I just switched on you right there.
No, that's okay. I really loved like B, C, D horror movies. Like I liked shit that was like not scary. Like I loved I watched all the Hellraiser movies like in a row. Like my friends and I used to do these movie-a-thons where we would just watch movies like without sleeping for like 2 days,
Mm-hmm.
like, and we would have a theme, like all the Hellraiser movies are like all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies are like, and each sequel gets like more and more insane until you're at like Jason 10 and like it's in space and you're just like, this is amazing. Like, how did we get here? For the first, Jason wasn't even really in the first Jason, the first Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always had like a special place in my heart for like obscure, like kind of random, low budget horror. And I always liked scaring myself. And I always liked, kind of like, I'm lowbrow. I'm not like I haven't seen all the classics. I don't love like really abstract, like slow, like I haven't even seen Suspiria. This is going to make me sound like such a monster. But like, I love Chud, like that's like what I grew up on is like fun trash. And so.
Cannibalistic humanoid underground.
Dwellers.
There we go. Yeah. Exactly. That movie's unbelievable.
It's so good. It's so fun.
Have you seen Street Trash?
No.
Street Trash is great.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm making a note. So yeah, I watched a ton of that stuff as a kid, and I was traumatized like everyone else of our generation by, Alien, and It obviously was like, I think I saw It when I was like 7 or something. And it like ruined my life / got me this job. So, two sides of that coin.
So what do you think makes the best, most effective sci-fi or horror?
Now personally, like I love sci-fi and horror because it allows you to talk about really serious, like heady psychological stuff, but Trojan horse it in a packaging that people will greenlight, pay for, and then go see. So I like it as a way of disguising, like, I'm really interested in psychological stuff. I'm really interested in anxiety and depression. And, now I'm really interested in like postpartum and stuff. And I love the idea that you can kind of find the right metaphor and wrap it up in that. And then like give it to people for them to figure out and like connect with, in a sneaky way.
Mm-hmm. Rod Serling did a lot of that with Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay, so can you take me through a typical day as a staff writer and story editor on Stranger Things?
Sure. I mean, it's super boring, but yeah, so we write out of a house in like the Hollywood Hills. And it's me, Caitlin Schneiderhan, Paul Dichter, Curtis Gwynn, that's the writer's room, and then the Duffer Brothers, Matt and Ross, who are there when they're not, running the rest of the world. And we come in, there's a lot of dogs in the writer's room. It's like 4 dogs. So there's like 4 people and 4 dogs. And, oh man, I don't know. I like eat a bunch of muesli and like get a pile of snacks. And then depending on where we are in the season, that determines like the day. But I mean, like you just, like when we're breaking the outline for the whole season, we talk about what themes we want to explore, what we want the tone to be, what movies we're referencing, like big story beats. But I mean, it's just like 9 hours or 10 hours or whatever of just like basically problem solving plot, trying to nail down character arcs, and then like going on random tangents of like making fun of stuff we think sucks. Like, what was the last thing? And getting in arguments about like what movies are good and what movies are bad. Like, I'm alone in the room because like I love What Lies Beneath and I think it's awesome. Mm-hmm. And everyone else thinks I'm insane. So like I've definitely wasted a lot of time defending What Lies Beneath. And I feel like I should get some kind of recognition for that. But everyone has like their What Lies Beneath. So anyway, yeah, I mean, it's just like basically 4 people at a big table and a bunch of dogs running around, just like going through storylines, trying to figure out awesome shit while telling this like larger story, and not making any of it seem like trying to walk the line of like fun and scary and like convenient and, all of this stuff.
So why do you guys talk about older movies? Are you guys maybe trying to extract some different themes and apply it to what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I mean, because it's set in the 80s, like we like to kind of go back to whatever year we're writing in, like this year is 1986. So we like go back to that era. We talk about what was happening, it was Chernobyl. And we watch movies like that came out that year, and try to like kind of like rediscover like the national temperature, the global temperature, like what people were talking about, what people were afraid of. Season 3, it was like a lot of body horror, paranoia. In, later in the 80s, it became, the slasher genre was kind of like came to a head, and, there was a lot of satanic panic. So like we are trying to tap into like what was happening then, but also like we are always referring back to our favorite movies and the way that they did things, that stuck with us, like certain sequences or ways that character shifts were articulated. Like we absolutely are robbing from our heroes like all the time. And I think everybody does that. And it's just, how proudly you wear that on your sleeve. And we're pretty proud.
Have you found that people nowadays are afraid of the same things or similar things as they were back then?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I mean, I think there's like obviously the really primal fears of technology, the future, the government. I think, in the 80s, there was like a lot of paranoia, like about the government and what they're doing and what they're telling us and what they're keeping from us. Mm-hmm. And I think that now, probably more than ever, there's a mistrust and a paranoia about, the institutions that we think should be taking care of us. and their relationships with foreign powers. And that's a lot of, the like, as Stranger Things has like grown into like a more global show. We talk a little bit about that, but mostly, it's, the show will always be like a coming of age story. And I think teenagers are teenagers, whether it's, the 1500s or the 1980s or now, like everybody is afraid of who they are, who they're becoming, how much control they have over that. The push and pull of like wanting to be taken care of and needing to assert independence. The idea of people telling you what you're supposed to be or what you should be, and the idea of like kind of starting to see like maybe who you are inside. I know that's all like very cliche, but I mean, that's it's true. It's the sandbox that we're playing in.
And I think that sci-fi has always been great like that. I brought up Rod Serling before, and what he was doing was talking about really, really difficult social issues through the lens of sci-fi elements. And I think that, that sounds exactly like what you're talking about.
Yeah, and like, I mean, arguably our supposed generations, Rod Serling being Jordan Peele has been doing the exact same thing, which I think has resonated with people so much for that exact reason, because it is fun, it is entertaining. And like, one of the things I like working on Stranger Things is, it's like people kind of write it off as like a show for kids. And like part of that is true, but I am proud of the part of the show that respects the audience and strives to entertain the audience while telling, whatever story that we're telling. And I appreciated that about Get Out. It stands on its own as a piece of entertainment, and it stands on its own as a piece of social commentary. And I think that's kind of like the golden mean that we're all striving to get to.
Oh man, I was trying to look for this one. It's this one Stephen King. Oh man, they say, you want to see a dead body?
From Stand By Me.
There we go. Yeah. Stand By Me was, could be seen as a kid story, but they were talking about some real stuff.
Yeah, which I love. And I wish that there is very much more of now. But when the Duffers were out pitching Stranger Things, there was this prevailing opinion in Hollywood that like, if you want to tell a story starring kids, like it needs to be a kid's story. And I don't think that, obviously that's not true. I mean, clearly that is not true. But yeah, I mean, Stand By Me is a huge, huge influence for that reason.
So do you have a character on the show that you write for, or do all the writers help write all the characters?
We all write all the characters. I think we all like have our favorites, who are kind of like our babies. But yeah, everyone, helps break the entire season and the character arcs. And then, each of us writes an episode. So, it's a collab.
Who are your babies?
I would love to use this opportunity to go on the record as saying, I loved Steve like before it was cool to love Steve. Like in season 1, when Steve was like bad and he like spray painted bad stuff about Nancy and all of this stuff, I like walked in. This is like the one thing I will say that I called. Like I walked into the writer's room on the first day and I was like, I don't know who this actor is, but like he is a baby movie star. And I fully believe that about Joe Keery. I think he is a baby movie star. I think he's unbelievable. And so I love doing anything with him. I'd shot a short film like not too long ago that I cast him in like a small role just because he's an amazing actor and he's a great guy and he can sell anything. And that's the funny thing about the people who are really good on the show, that that you can count on. They often get like these big exposition dumps, these big like suspend your disbelief for a moment scenes, because they can sell it because they can sell anything. So I love Steve. I also have a really soft spot for Max, and for Robin, who both are like, you know, somewhat what I was like as a kid and still am, I guess, to some extent. So, and I like, I like Erica a lot, even though she's like basically a cartoon character, but I just love that she's like this little, you know, like objectivist, like, I don't know, capitalist monster, who's like super insightful and blunt. And, she really cracks me up. So I guess that's kind of, those are my guys, but really I just really love Steve.
You called Steve a baby movie star. What did you mean by that?
He's like a movie star that like you don't know, nobody knows he's a movie star yet. Like he's like Tom Cruise and like what, I don't know, whatever. What was his first damn movie? It was like before
Cocktail?
Was Cocktail his first one? I was gonna say Cocktail, but what about that movie where he was the elf? Legend. Was that before Cocktail?
Let's IMDb it right now.
Yeah, let's find out.
Let's see. Actor. Let's go all the way down. He was in Endless Love as Billy.
That was his first thing?
That looks like, I don't know.
But was Legend before Cocktail? That's the real question.
Oh, yeah, true. Let's check that out. Okay. Cocktail came out in 88. Oh, but Top Gun came out in 86. But then Legend came out in 85.
Yes!
Yeah, but Risky Business came out in 83.
No! Risky Business, though. Risky Business. Risky Business, Tom Cruise is, to me, like Joe Carey in Stranger Things. Like, I think he has so much charisma. I think that he has so... And he doesn't get to do a lot of it in the show, at least in these previous seasons, but he has a ton of depth. He has a huge range. Like, I don't know. I don't know why he's not the most, like, highest in demand actor out there right now. I can't wait to shoot a feature so that I can have him make me look good.
So I think writing good, believable dialogue is one of the most difficult things to do well. Do you ever find it challenging to write dialogue that's based in the 80s?
I find that it is good not to overthink it. I spend time like researching lingo when I write different eras. Like, so I've written like the spectrum of scripts I've written the last few years is like, I wrote one that takes place in 1666. I wrote one that takes place in 1968. And I've written on Stranger Things. And so I'll do a lot of research and read a lot of like transcripts and, you know, like literature from that time. But at a certain point, I think it's important to just try to understand your character and not get caught up in like authenticity of, you know, like obviously you don't want to like be loaded down with anachronisms, but like, I mean, it's important to remember, like, kind of like we were talking about earlier, like teenagers are the same, you know, like they care about like sex and booze and like hanging out and like defying authority. And I think you can get really like confused and like lose a lot of time and like momentum in writing if you are like agonizing about the diction. But that's usually like, so usually you go back like after like a second or third draft, and then you really start to like work the dialogue really hard to, you know, kind of get all of that through. Make sure that it sounds right as it can, you know, and then at a certain point you just have to trust the actors to sell it, which they, you know, usually do. Like I've definitely written stuff where I'm like, ooh, I don't know. I don't know about this one. But a great actor, you know, can get you further than you think.
Do you have any favorite episodes that you've worked on?
Yeah, for sure. My episodes are my favorite. Episode 4 of season 3, the sauna test. I think it's awesome. I did episode 6 of season 2, the spy, which I think is awesome. And season 1 I wasn't on, but I think I liked I liked episode 5 the best in that. But I'm more than episodes because we break the whole season as kind of as a whole. We break it like a movie. It's not like Law and Order or something where it's like really episodic and you're kind of resetting every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one big story told over 8 or 9 episodes. It's not so much episodes that I am attached to, but like moments in episodes. So like in season 3, like I love the moment when like 11 is trapped in Billy's mind in episode 6 and she thinks she's in the cabin and then he comes out and starts talking to her, which was something that we kind of ripped off from The Cell, the movie The Cell, which is another like underrated, awesome 90s movie. But it's like I loved writing it, but then seeing it performed, it'll always be one of my favorites. I think it's so unnerving, and I think that Dacre Montgomery does such an amazing job. And it's that spooky thing, like if you've ever realized you're in a nightmare while you're in a nightmare, it's a very upsetting feeling. And I have moments, I guess, more than episodes.
That's really cool. What you just said was that it's cool seeing it come to life.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to be on the page, but then to see these characters play out this scene.
Yeah, well, it's so fun and gratifying to be in screenwriting because, there is a certain lack of autonomy because your script is just a piece of a machine. It's not the final thing. But it's so exciting to be part of something that is like alive and that like changes with every hand that touches it. And I think like the most disheartening thing about like screenwriting is that you can work for so long without having that collaborative energy that like really like makes something, real. And so it's so fun to be on a show. Whenever like morale gets down in the room, the Duffer Brothers, will like come show us like clips of scenes they've already shot and like edited together, or even like they'll show us like concept art for like a monster, or they'll show us like pictures of the mall when they were like scouting the mall, and it's just like these like tangible goalposts like keep you like slaving away because it's so exciting to know that it's going to become real, like the thing that you're thinking in your head, like people are going to like be quoting it. And it's very exciting.
So this season 3, I grew up in the mall here in Alaska, Diamond Center.
Diamond Center. Woo!
Did you have any moments maybe looking at the Sam Goody sign where you're like, oh my gosh, this like really takes me back?
Yeah, dude, of course. Mall culture. All of us in the room like talked about like being a mall rat and lurking around the mall and, like eating whatever Auntie Am's pretzels, just like being disgusting and living in the mall. Like for some reason that was like the coolest, most best fun thing you could do with your day.
I don't know if mall culture exists anymore. Do you?
No, definitely not. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a teenager, but as far as I can tell, it doesn't. Although, I don't know if you saw 8th grade. They go to a mall in 8th grade, so maybe people still do.
There's that scene, if I'm remembering it correctly, in season 3 of Stranger Things where they walk into the mall and it's just like...
everybody is there.
This moment of glory.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's definitely not like that anymore. I mean, everybody knows that, right? Like Amazon has dismantled the mall for better or for worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that maybe I just have a an aversion to malls now where I feel just like gross when I'm in them.
Yeah. What? They're disgusting.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, malls are horrible.
They really are.
Yeah, no, Amazon had it right. Like, don't go to the mall.
Stay home and order stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you have any stories maybe from the writer's room or the set that really stick out in your mind?
Well, I can tell you a story. I don't know if people already know this story, but I went to set. So I didn't go to set last season because I was pregnant and then like having a baby. But I went to set on season 2 for like a week maybe. Shadow the Duffers because I want to direct, and it's really helpful to watch other people direct. So I flew down to Atlanta and I was crashing at my friend's house, and it was my first season on the show. So I was like really nervous, like all the time, like every day. Like I was really, really sweaty, and I came off as like really mean because I was just like so nervous. And I was so nervous like, I don't know if you've ever had a cold sore on your lip, but like it's a stress thing. And if you're really stressed out, sometimes like you'll get a cold sore. So I was so stressed out. I got like 4 cold sores.
Okay.
On my lips. And so, but I was like on set and like had to go to set. So like in order to try to cover it, I wore like a ton of like really dark purple lipstick, which like I've never worn lipstick. Like it looked so fucking crazy. And like you could still see the cold sores. So I just looked like some like horribly like ill streetwalker. But like, I didn't know. I didn't know what else to do. So I was on set and I was like talking to the actors. I was hanging out with David Harbour, who's like amazing, like guy. He's really wonderful. Sean Astin, who's a saint. I remember it was the last day I was going to be there. It was Sean Astin's last day on set. And it was the day that he gets murdered by a Demogorgon dog, like a demo dog, in season 2. And, it was like 3 a.m. and they were doing like night shoots or splits or something. It's like 3 a.m. and somebody was supposed to have gotten like a stunt girl to like be the thing that attacks Sean Astin, and then like they paint over it like digitally with I don't know how they do it, VFX. And the stunt girl, that nobody got a stunt girl, so everybody was freaking out, and I was just standing there and I was like, well, I'll do it. Like, if you guys just need a person, like, I'll do it. And I remember the VFX guy, whose name was Paul, came up to me and he like grabbed my arms. Like you remember in like Hansel and Gretel, like the witch who's like checking their arms to see how fat they are. He was like stroking my arms and like feeling my bones and like staring at them. And then he looked at the Duffer Brothers and he was like, they're perfect. Can I have them? And he's like German, so he had this weird accent. And the Duffer Brothers were like, I don't know if you can have her arms, dude. Like, ask her. And I was like, yes, like, you can have my arms. So I got like, they put all these dots, these like motion capture dots on me. And for the scene where Bob gets like murdered by a Demogorgon, that's me. I like attacked him with my little lady hands and my like purple whore lipstick. And I like pretended like I was eating him alive. And it was great because his whole family, because it was his last day shooting, his whole family was on set. So his wife was there and his daughters, who were like adorable, like 10 and 13 or something. And Sean Astin like helped me, I don't know, do this weird stunt double acting because he had done so much stuff with Lord of the Rings. So he like knew what I should do. But it was like the coolest thing. It was like the coolest thing ever. It was the most Hollywood moment of my whole life. So somewhere on the internet, you can find like behind the scene pictures of me looking insane, attacking Sean Astin in that scene.
Man, that's really great. Did you feel like that was kind of a rite of passage? Because you said you showed up and you were kind of uncomfortable, did you feel a little bit more relaxed after that?
No, I'm never relaxed.
No. Okay.
No, but I was really excited. But I'm like, even though I'm like nervous, I still like force my way into situations that I want. I still manage to get what I want, even though I'm like really uncomfortable about it. And so I kind of feel like that's why that happened. Because I was like, well, I'm going to make my mark here. So, but yeah, it was really fun. It was really, really fun.
That's great.
Yeah, it was a high.
So moving on to the next question. I think we're in the middle of a nostalgia culture where television, film, music, and fashion are including a lot of throwback elements and themes. Do you think that maybe that's a symptom of a longing for a bygone era, or is it playing to a generation that grew up with that pop culture by giving them something familiar that they already have emotions attached to?
I think those are kind of the same thing, aren't they? This generation is longing for a bygone era that we perceive as being like a better or simpler time, but it's not really. It's just the time when we were young and we didn't understand or have the responsibilities that we do now. But it's not like the 80s were fucking great, you know? Just like in the 80s when, you know, Stand By Me was made, and it's about nostalgia for the 50s weren't fucking great either. But you're young and you don't know that when you're young. So you harken back for a time of innocence that doesn't exist in society. It only existed in you. So that's kind of what I think it is. Like, I don't think the 80s were like a better or simpler time. I just think that the 18 to 30-year-old demographic that everyone is catering to was young then and didn't understand that shit was fucked up.
For sure.
So we look back on it and be like, oh yeah, remember when it was all like high-waisted jeans and, you know, fun jams? But really it was like Chernobyl and fucking, you know, everything else. I don't know. I just watched Chernobyl, so I'm just obsessed with it right now.
That's just what humans do, I think, is we romanticize times when we're younger. You know, you see it with the 60s. You know, if you've ever watched, I think it's a PBS special that they do. It's called the 60s, and they do one called the 70s. But if you watch the 60s one, the 60s were pretty fucked. Yeah.
No, have you read Slouching Towards Bethlehem?
That's so weird that you brought that up. I'm actually reading it right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. That's the fucking 60s, man.
Yeah, Joan Didion. She is a phenomenal writer.
Yeah, she's amazing.
But yeah, when people try to romanticize the hippie generation and then you read Slouching Toward Bethlehem, you're just like, wait, they were all a bunch of drug addicts.
Yeah, no, it was fucked up. It was fucked up.
So I want to switch gears here a little bit to talk about your short horror film, How to Be Alone. So for listeners who haven't seen it, and please correct me if I get this wrong, but I know it's on YouTube, and it focuses on a young woman kind of fighting with and then overcoming her deepest fears. What made you want to make this video?
Yeah, so that's an autobiographical video.
Okay.
That is why I wanted to make it. I like have like my fair share of, maybe more than my fair share of neuroses and anxieties, and I wanted to, it was kind of an experiment to try to depict it like as honestly as I possibly could and put it out in the world and see if anyone else took the bait.
What do you mean by took the bait?
I mean, like, as kind of like a smoke signal to say, like, I don't know if you feel like this, but I feel like this. And if you feel like this too, you are not alone. And it doesn't mean that you can't do great things or that you're not a great person. It just means that you have an active imagination and a fast heartbeat. But that's okay. And I find a lot of solace in solidarity, in you know, finding like your people. And so it was really fun to make that short and see people respond to it, because I did have a lot of very intense responses to it, which was really exciting for me.
I feel like that's definitely like an artist mentality. Like, okay, here's something that really scares the shit out of me. Now I need to share it with the world.
Yeah, and like, it's a happy ending. Like, even though I wouldn't say it's necessarily about someone overcoming their fears, but instead kind of learning to cohabitate with them.
I guess you kind of alluded to this a little earlier, but did you find it therapeutic?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think the act of writing a short like that, forces you to examine your fears and the way that you deal with them in a really honest way, because you don't want your character to feel bullshitty.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to confront yourself and kind of unflinchingly in order to get away with the story. So yeah, it was very much the like narcissistic deep dive. I didn't know yet, but I was pregnant when I was writing it. So I had a bunch of pregnancy anxiety that was like subconsciously brewing, which came out in the writing. And then I shot it while I was pregnant. And then by the time it was released at South by Southwest, I had my baby. So it was like an interesting journey in that way, trying to write a film that is a short that's specifically about female anxiety, relationships, codependence, pregnancy, identity. It was interesting to like go through the process of the short while going through the process of having a baby. It was very, it was really meta.
So you've done a lot of really cool stuff in your career so far.
Thank you.
What kind of stuff can we expect from you in the future?
Yes. So I am going to stay with Stranger Things until we're done with that show. But in between seasons, this next summer, I plan to direct a feature film, which I'm really excited about. So that's kind of like my next big project. I have a couple of different feature projects that I want to write and direct, but I had so much fun directing How to Be Alone that I can't wait to do a feature. Directing is so much more fun than writing. So that's kind of where I'm at in my career. Is I love working on Stranger Things. I love the show, but I'm also excited to like start doing my own thing.
Writing's hard.
Oh my God, it's the worst.
Do you find, or are you kind of longing to be in the director chair so you don't have to trudge through the writing process?
Well, kind of, but also like I can't imagine directing anything I didn't write. So the ultimate is writing your thing and then directing your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because getting to see an idea go like through the entire process and having like as much control as you do as a director is like the most, oh God, like what's the word? Like satisfying, like bonerific, like invincible, awesome feeling, I think, of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from like giving birth to a human. Like these things are close. So this is like a deep cut that will be boring for anyone who hasn't seen How to Be Alone, but there's like this one shot in How to Be Alone where this gimp is crawling out of a cupboard and his fingers like part the cupboard, these like black latex fingers. And I remember having the idea in my mind and writing it down and then sitting down with the cameraman, the DP and Caleb Heyman and telling him what it should look like, and then sitting down with art department and telling them how it should look. And then I remember being on set and this art assistant was this tiny little girl was inside the cupboard, this little 4-foot girl wearing those latex gloves, and she was doing the move, and I was watching it on the monitor, and it was exactly what I wanted. It was literally like seeing a dream come true. It was like being God. You were like, first I see it in my mind, and then I see it in real life. And there's like no feeling like that. It is so intoxicating. So like that alone, in conjunction with, it's so much more fun. You're working with other people, you're part of a team. Like, directing is really where it's at as far as I'm concerned.
And I imagine you can just keep going and keep challenging yourself to, as far as what's in your mind, like, can I actually do this?
Yeah. Well, it's something that I learned for years and years of therapy, but, my therapist used to always say, if it's not scary, you're not doing it right. Which is how I try to like approach my career, which is like, you should always be a little bit scared. You should always be like a little bit uncomfortable.
That's great.
Yeah. Thanks.
So taking this all the way back to when you were a kid in Anchorage and you were focused on leaving a legacy, do you feel like you're on the right track right now?
I do, but I think, this is like not going to square with everything else that we've been talking about. But I also think that like having a baby has also shifted my perspective about what's important and what's meaningful and what it means to leave a legacy. Because I do want to like share all these weird feelings and connect with people about weird feelings, which is kind of like my mantra. But also like I want to communicate with my kid about weird feelings and let them know that they're not alone and that they can grow up in a place where they can connect with people.
That's great too. 2 great things in a row.
There you go. Awesome.
This has been awesome. I mean, if you have anything else you'd like to add, I think that does it for my questions.
No, I'm good.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Kate. This has been a blast.
Oh, same. Likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
For more information about how you can support local grassroots journalism, go to www.patreon.com/Crude Magazine. Crude Conversations is written, hosted, and produced by me, Cody Liska, for Crude Magazine. Music was produced by Alcoda Beats.